Well, good morning. We're back in Middle Earth and we're going to continue the festival. The first thing I wanted to note is that I did forget to mention this the last time. We have these apple tubs here, and if you haven't interacted with them yet, you would right click on it and your character would bob for apples. Depending on the quality apple you get, you can turn it into this guy here for either 1, 2, or 3 festival tokens. So you could get a small apple, a medium apple, or a large apple. And if you happen to get a Hobbit Mask token, and you have enough festival tokens to boot, you could get a Pumpkin Festival Mask. Why, I don't know, but apparently some people do like them. So there's that. And there are stations like this around Middle Earth. In Thorin's Hall, it's geodes. At Duland, it's scrolls. And in Bree, at the festival ground, it's pumpkins. But they all work essentially the same way. You pick an item. Depending on the quality of the item, you get 1, 2, or 3 tokens. And if you happen to have one of those special scrolls for that area, you can get a mask. There's different masks for different areas too, which I don't remember what they are. But now we're going to talk to this fine fella here. This is Bingo Boffin. He was introduced to the game a few years ago, and among other things, he has a very long quest chain that takes you from the Shire all the way out to Gondor and back. Obviously, we can't do the whole thing right now, but at some point we're going to start the Boffin quest, because we can get at least through the Lone Lands with it. Hello, Bingo. How are you? Hello. I see that you have taken some time from your busy days of adventuring to celebrate the Harvest Festival. Good, good. How very right and proper. This has become one of my very favorite times of the year. My cousin Priska has brought her children to visit, and we are all going to enjoy the sights and sounds of the Harvest Festival together. You simply must join us. I will not take no for an answer, and you know how stubborn Boffins can be when we set our minds to it, legendarily so. You can find my various cousins enjoying the games around the party tree. I'd appreciate it if you help them make the most of their time here, and later in the evening, we will meet on the green fields to tell spooky stories. I can't wait. Okay, so Bingo is very, very happy about the festival and very, very excited about telling campfire ghost stories. And here's one of his cousins. This is Esmeralda Boffin. Hello, Esmeralda. I do not see very many people dancing. My mother said that there would be dance contests held regularly during the festival, but so few people are participating. Is the spooky atmosphere to blame? Why is everyone afraid to dance? We must combat this fear of dancing with encouraging words. Find bashful festival goers and tell them there is nothing to fear. That will surely work. All right, so. Hi. I simply cannot. Well, we tried. He said no. Are you? Oh no, you're a hobbit. It is always good to visit Cousin Bingo, and it has been many years since I last made it out to Hobbiton for the Harvest Festival. I have rather more children now than I did then, but I have become quite practiced of traveling with so many. The key to a successful journey is to perform a hobbit count before you leave your starting point, and to perform a second count when you arrive at your destination. This is how I know that one of my children has gotten lost on the way. I am pretty sure Barilak is the child to blame on account of usually being my drowsiest boy who leaves my count short. We climb the hill up to the festival. Barrelac is probably sleeping among the bushes that lie in the road we took. If you don't mind, could you find Barrelac and wake him up? We did not come all the way here from Newbury for him to sleep through the festival. So this is Cousin Prisca, and Cousin Prisca has quite a few children, as we're going to discover during the bingo's quest around Middle Earth. Oh, and we have a bashful festival goer here. Excuse me, why aren't you dancing? I simply cannot. Oh, come on. What about you? Why aren't you dancing? Thank you, but no. Well, at least he was polite about it. And who are you? You are... Oh, you're a trickster. That's a whole different quest. Which... I haven't done that too many times. I'm gonna have to, try it soon. But everyone would look at me. Everybody's busy worrying about themselves. They won't look at you. What if everyone laughs at me? What if everyone doesn't? And what does it matter? You're here to have fun. All right, Esmeralda. I have talked to them. It didn't work. People are still too bashful to get up and dance. What a disaster. Wait a moment. I have an idea. Perhaps they just need to see someone else having a good time, dancing and cheering, and who knows what else. It's up to you. Take a moment to do whatever you want, any creative expression at all, and maybe that will help these bashful hobbits come to their senses. If they see you doing it and having a good time, perhaps they will be able to do it themselves. Okay, so for the next little bit, we get to do whatever we want. So we're going to do a little dancing, which is not really dancing if you think about it. This is more dancing. This. There we go. We're going to do a little dancing here. And her ring is up again, so that means we have successfully completed. That was quite a performance. I hope these bashful hobbits have learned how fun it can be just to be yourself and not worry about what anyone else is thinking. Thank you for being such a good sport. Will I see you at Cousin Bingo's spooky stories tonight? Okay, so that is one. And we're going to go talk to this fine hobbit here. Well, Medriel, my mother said we were going to visit Cousin Bingo, which is fine. But there has been a most sudden and unexpected reversal. Imagine my surprise when she told me we were going not to Mickle Delving, but to Hobbiton instead, there to partake in the Harvest Festival. Denotus shakes his head. Now I understand there are some things about this festival that are worthwhile. Good crops, and the promise of plenty, worthwhile celebrating. I have no patience for all the rest of it. Spooks, haunts, and frights. Silly rubbish and nonsense. I told Celandine the same thing not 2 weeks ago. My mother says Cousin Bingo is set on us sharing spooky stories, so there's no getting out of it. While we wait, I might as well see what the haunted burrow they've got is all about. I'll meet you inside. Alright, so we need to go find Mr. Grumpy Pants there in here. That's Dinodust. He's kind of a spoil sport, isn't he? So we have found him here. Most burrows do not have attics, being delved in the ground and not unnaturally elevated like the house of some folk. but this one is no more frightening than I would expect of the usual sort. The paint is peeling, and I hear rats sculling about, but it will take more than small irritations to raise the hair on my toes. All right. Now, we need to go. We need to get rid of the bats. Get out of my hair, bats. Get out. Go away. We need to go find him in the cobwebbed wing, which will be very easy because he's just right there. Will you look at this? Who could be convinced by this poor excuse for a spider? It's big, yes, I'll grant you that, but I can see the wire from which it hangs. That does not look like spider silk at all. It looks like a fishing line at best, and mere twine at worst. The webs are all right, I suppose, but this is not frightening at all. It's silly to think any hobbit would be scared of this wing. Yep. Mr. Spoilsport. Okay, what do you got to say for yourself here? Let me ask you a question. Do you think these hobbits are trying to scare us? Because these glowing bottles could be filled with anything, which cause the imagination to run, but their illumination has another effect. It causes me to plainly see the crudely painted mask and know it for what it is, just a mask. Now, if it was darker in here, perhaps I would think this was a real goblin, but not when I can see it so clearly. This is not frightening at all. It's supposed to be fun. This is supposed to all be fun. This basement is a little damp, but it's no more scary than others I have seen. Is this the best these hobbits can do? It is a little confusing to find the right path, but if you set your mind to it, you shouldn't have any trouble finding the way through. It would need to be darker and more maze-like to scare this hobbit, I tell you that. All right, Dennis. You have lost the whole point of this exercise. It was to have fun. You are disappointing. That haunted burrow does not seem very haunted to me. It is all for show, and the whole thing strikes me as being very silly and not frightening at all. When my mother revealed that we were meeting Cousin Bingo at Hobbiton for the Harvest Festival, and not at his home in Mickle Delving, I was very cross. But I have to admit that I very much enjoyed exploring the haunted burrow with you, and revealing it as unfrightening display. I thank you for that. I look forward to disproving with you the scary stories Cousin Bingo has for us this evening. I will see you there. All right, Mr. Crank. Now, we're going to go over here because we have another Boffin that has a quest for us, and this is Camilla Boffin. Camellia? We need your help. Have you participated in the apple bobbing here at the festival yet? There are very important rules in place. No using your hands, and you only get one chance to play. But my brother Griffo did not listen to the rules, and now he has ruined it for everyone. Griffo thought those apples were just for the taking, and he reached right into one of the tubs. He grabbed an apple and took a big bite, and then, as if that wasn't bad enough, he did it again. Honestly, if there were any grounds for being asked to leave the festival at once, I think that would qualify. But they're being very nice about the whole thing, and I've offered to bring some of their spare apple bobbing tubs up here so the game can continue. Now that you're here, can you help me? There's a spare tub at the base of the hill. Go pick it up and carry it back here, but beware of bobbers-to-be. Much like Griffo, they won't be good at following the rules, and they will keep you from carrying the tub. You have to start all over. All right, so we have to go find while we're doing that, can we do this one too? Because over here, we have a sleeping hobbit. Sure enough, Verlac is sleeping soundly by the side of the road. Hello there, friend. Do you know this sleepy fella? I haven't seen him around Hobbiton or Bywater before, so I believe he has come from somewhere else in the Shire to enjoy the Harvest Festival. But will you look at this? He has fallen asleep and is bound to miss the whole thing. That would be a shame, no mistake about it. Here is my plan. I have been scaring folk with my ferocious bear costume all day. You wake up this fellow, and I will let out a loud roar and give him a fright. Heh! It will be a great welcome to this festival, and will also teach him not to waste so many hours sleeping, or at least not when a festival is underway. Alright, so he's ready to scare Barrelac. He goes, "Rawr!" Barrelac yawns sleepily and rubs his eyes. "Oh, hello there. I was just taking a quick nap before the festival gets underway. Cousin Bingo suggests that we all come visit and see the famous Hobbiton Harvest Festival, and sometime tonight we will all share spooky stories around a campfire. I'd better get some rest if we're going to stay up so late." "Impressive costume, friend. Well, back to sleep." Aww. Poor Hobbit. He's disappointed. His scaring didn't work this time. I feel bad for him. Don't worry. There. It'll be okay. You'll find someone else to scare. Now, we need to come down this way because we need to grab a apple bobbing tub. And that apple bobbing tub is down here. And then we have to bring it back up. We gotta watch out for hobbits that want to stick their little paws in it. So we're gonna run around this way. Look at those pretty sunflowers. We're gonna run up this way. I need to grow some giant sunflowers like that. I grew some shorter ones. They were about 2 foot tall. And we're going this way. Cut through here. And there. Alright, here's your bobbin basket. Barrel. Thank you. Can I ask you to get one more tub of apples? They should be freshly picked and waiting at the orchard not far from here. Remember, use caution to avoid bobbers to be while carrying it back here. Alright, so now we need to go up this way. And that lady there, she's part of a 2-part quest chain that only, not hunters, farmers can do. So there's a summer festival, I think it is, that farmers can plant seeds, and then they come back for harvest festival, and they harvest them, and they get a mushroom table as a reward. I think that's what it is. It's a cute little decoration, and it's definitely mushroom related. Alright, so need to avoid hobbit-y eyes. And we got, and you can see them on the mini map. Where are they? Oh, that one's going that way. That one's going that way. And I think if I go around this way, and alright, here's your apples. Thanks once again. I have carefully explained the rules to Griffo once more, and he assures me he will follow them now, no matter how hungry he might get. Now that Griffo is no longer embarrassing me, I have to admit that this festival has been very fun so far. I like ensuring everything goes smoothly more than I like participating myself. My mother says I have always been like this, even when I was very little. Thanks again. I will tell you if we need any more help. Tonight we're going to share spooky stories with Cousin Bingo, and you're welcome to come. I love how everybody's just inviting me to their little storytelling time without consulting Bingo first. Well, I can't say I'm not surprised. Thank you for finding Barrelac's latest napping spot. I'll let him sleep until it is time for Bingo's frightening stories. Perhaps they will contain enough thrills and chills to keep my drowsy son awake, where the promise of festival fun does not. Alright, so we have talked to all of his cousins, helped them out, stumbled over some words. Alright, Bingo. How are my cousins finding the festival? Ah, excellent. It seems they are all enjoying it as their own particular ways. But what's this? Young Dinodus does not frighten easily, does he? We will have to do something about that. This is a season for spooks and a festival for fright. He is missing out on a great deal of fun at the time of year if he does not allow himself to be scared. You have already agreed to join us on the Greenfields for sharing of spooky stories, but now that I know Dinodus believes himself to be above scaring, I fear my own stories might not be, well, frightening enough. I need to do some more research. Can I ask you to make the trip to Tuckborough and to secure the assistance of Donna Mira Took, the librarian of the Great Smiles? She has an unrivaled understanding of the contents of the library, and she will certainly know where to find a tome or two with the scariest of Hobbit stories within. Find me suitably scary stories, and I will make one or two further arrangements, and we will be ready for the telling of tales when it is dark enough. Alright, so now we're going down to the Great Smiles. We're going to take a horse. It's not terribly far away, but it's not right next door either. Hobbiton is a nice little town, full of nice little hobbit holes. Some of them, this one's probably not a very big hobbit hole at all, is it? Unless it goes down some. Most of them are that way. But no matter. I think there's actually a real term for homes like this, and I cannot remember the name of it right now. But if I think about it, I'll probably blurt it out, but I don't think I will right now. But I do recall people actually building houses that are built into the sides of hills, partially underground. There's the library. One good thing about houses like that is that they are a lot more climate controlled. They don't get as hot during the summer, they don't get as cold during the winter, because the ground keeps them at a base temperature. Hello, Miss Took. I'd like to speak to you. You're looking for a book of scary stories. I cannot say that any come immediately to mind, for hobbits do not generally write down such things, though they do enjoy sharing them in person, especially in warm comfort with the dark of night safely beyond shuttered panes and far away. You're welcome to look for yourself. Alright, so we have a bunch of glowy bookcases here, but we want this little one right here. You find a tattered book that seems to contain frightful tales. In other words, I found a book of ghost stories. Well, this is very curious. I do not believe I have ever seen this book before. The letters on the cover are very faded and most indistinct. I cannot read very much of the title, but the first word seems to be chill. I believe it promises chilling tales, and a cursory examination seems to bear out this presumption. Feel free to take it with you, and bring it to Bingo Boffin for his perusal. May it increase his enjoyment of the Harvest Festival. I know he will see it return to me, eventually. So, that will be very much clearer once we get through all the bingo quests. I won't spoil that, though. I understood that statement. And back to the party tree. Back to bingo. And Tuckborough is a very small place, but I guess technically it's the current seat of Hobbiton, or not of Hobbiton, of the Shire. I'd say Hobbiton is their biggest city, and it's either Mickle Delving or Tuckborough that is the seat of the Shire. I'm not sure which. I do know a lot of Tucks live in Tuckborough. Tooks live in Tuckborough. And the Tooks have very fallow-heightish qualities. They tend to be fair, taller, and leaders, which you wouldn't expect considering how Merry and Pippin act, but there you have it. Okay. Alright, Bingo, I am returning, and I found just the thing for you. Ah, this book looks perfect. Thank you. I shall spend some time becoming acquainted with the tales within, and it will be time to share spooky stories before you know it. Alright, so he's very happy with that book. It's nearly time. Let me know when you're ready, and we will go to the green fields together. Okay, so the next part of this is an instance, which we shall do after a short commercial break. Okay, we're back. And yes, Bingo, we're ready. Let us be off. Now this is a solo instance, so say you were doing these With a group, you'd have to break your group up to do this instance. This is the perfect night to share spooky stories, even better than I hoped. Many of my cousin Priska's children have told me they have their own stories ready to share, and I have one of my own as well. Bolster your courage, my friend, and let us celebrate the scary spirit of the season. You can choose who gets to share the first story. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rings here. Not everybody has a story to tell. I would be happy to go first if I had a story prepared, but I think I will just listen for now. I am not telling a story. Pick someone else. Honestly. Dana does. So now, I do think there's at least one more that doesn't have a story, but we've already narrowed this down to 7. Now, in most cases, you would only be able to do 2 stories during this instance, but there is a little way around that, so we are going to read a few stories. I overheard this story when I was very little, and it made quite an impression. I vowed never to let fear be the master of me, and so far it hasn't, and it won't. Some hobbits could still learn that lesson, I'd say. Long ago, a wealthy hobbit named Longo Proudfoot lived alone in a fancy manor in Mickle Delving. He enjoyed expensive things, and employed many servants, and it was a poorly kept secret that he did not treat them well. He enjoyed the food they prepared for him, but he was consumed with distrust, and he feared they would sneak into the pantry and steal the ingredients within for their own families. So it was that Longo had strong locks and heavy bars installed on his pantry, and carried the only keys. When it was time for his servants to prepare his dinner, he would march them to the door, carefully unlock everything, and stand by watching while they removed what they needed. He carefully marked the quantities of each foodstuff, and if it seemed more was being withdrawn than was necessary, he had strong words at the ready. This continued for some time, but still Longo was certain that his servants were stealing his food. I cannot say for sure, but it seems to me that the extreme measures he used to prevent it must have inflamed the servants' desire to perpetrate some thievery, but that might just be my perspective as a rebellious hobbit. At any rate, there came a day when Longo's suspicions were at their greatest level, and he called all his servants into the sitting room. "I no longer have need of your services," he proclaimed, and dismissed them all. "Go steal from someone else's larder," he cried as they streamed from the manor. That night, as Longo lay in his bed, he found that his suspicions had not been eased by dismissing all of his servants. On the contrary, now he worried they would not be bound by loyalty, and might break into the manor to gain access to his pantry. Where were his keys? Ah, here they are. Still, they might have already performed the deed, and replaced the keys when they were done. Longo hurried to the pantry, and found the many locks as he left them earlier in the day. He unlocked every one, and threw open the door, revealing shelf upon shelf of useful ingredients and foodstuffs. As he went inside for a closer look, he brushed the door by mistake, and it swung shut behind him. If he had not been so focused on counting the bags of flour and inventorying the pickled jars, he might have heard the heavy bar fall into place outside the door, but he did not. No one knows how long it took before anyone noticed they had not seen Longo Proudfoot set foot from his manor for some time, for he told his servants not to return, and he had no friends or family to check in on him. He might have lasted for quite some time in that well-stocked pantry, but in the end, after all, does it really matter if it was days or if it was months? But hobbits in the Shire have reported feelings of discomfort in their own pantries late at night, as if they were being watched from behind the shelves, and some folk have claimed to see eyes peering out at them from between the bags and boxes, eyes full of jealousy and distrust. Well then, I'd say Longo Proudfoot learned a very hard lesson. So, do you have a story for us, Camilla? When we came here to see Cousin Bingo and celebrate the Harvest Festival with him, we crossed the Brandywine Bridge and took the road by stock. Do you all remember looking across the water and seeing the farms of Budgeford? My story took place at one of those farms, and the events told therein happened not so long ago. I know these events are true, though they sound unbelievable. The story was told to me by someone who would know the truth of the matter. The farm stood right along the river's edge and belonged to a hobbit named Everard. He was a Bolger, as are many of the folk of the Budgeford, but whereas most of the Bolgers are fine farmers, Everard struggled daily to maintain his crop. Either it was taken by blight, or savaged by crows, or munched by rabbits, and on many occasions he had to depend upon the charity of his neighbors for his family to survive. Everard blamed his scarecrow most of all. No matter how hard he tried, he could not fashion a suitably frightening scarecrow. Every day the birds came to feast on his crops undeterred. He was at his wit's end on a Tuesday, and even he glowered at his failing scarecrow. A raven flew down from the sky and lighted upon it. "Oh, I'll teach you what you deserve," Everard growled as he swung his trowel at the bird. The raven flew just out of reach, and then landed once again upon the scarecrow's straw hat. "You seem upset, friend," the raven said. This set Everard back a bit, for while he had heard stories of speaking birds, he had never encountered one himself. "Upset?" he managed. "Of course! You birds won't leave my crops alone, you vile things." "It does seem like you deserve better," the raven responded. "If you like, I could speak to my people, and see if perhaps we could come to an arrangement. I'd be willing to do this favor for you if you let me sample some of those grains." Everard thought it over, and could see few drawbacks to the raven's proposal. After all, one bird's appetite would be less than a whole flock, and by giving up some of the crop, he might secure safety for the rest. "I agree," he told the bird, and watched as it devoured some of the crop and flew away. The next day he saw little improvement, and the birds continued to harry his crops. He was certain he would not see the raven again, but to his surprise the bird appeared and spoke. "They said they want to help you out, but they just can't resist the taste of the crops you're growing here. They said what you need is a better scarecrow. That would make it much more difficult for them to fly near." "I have tried to make this one scarier," Everard told him, "but it's just no good." "Let's see what we can do," the raven replied. The Wednesday sun crossed the sky as dusk approached. Everard's wife sent their daughter, Holly, to bring Everard in for supper. As Holly approached the field, she marveled at how lifelike appeared the second scarecrow her father had made. He must have spent all day fashioning it. It looked just like a hobbit. As she watched, a raven hopped among the grain, squawking, and flew away. Yeah, out of all the stories, I think that one is the creepiest. Okay, next. When we came here to see Cousin Bingo and... Oops, no, that's the one I just read. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the one I just read. And actually, that was from Camellia Boffin. Marigold's was the one about the guy with the pantry. Okay. Obviously, we need to take a quick break before we continue. Besides, I need some water if I'm going to read more of these. So we'll be right back. We're ready to continue with the stories. And there's Priska, mother to all of these fine young hobbits. Oh, I do not know very many spooky stories, but I'm certain one of my children will be happy to. Yeah, we've heard a few of your children's stories so far. And this is Fosco. Otto Grubb was the finest fisherman the Shire has ever seen, and none who cast their lines today can hope to rival his skill. Nor should they, if you believe the tale I'm about to tell. I believe it, for it is surely true. Odo's name was known far and wide throughout the Shire in his day, and it seemed he could find fish in any body of water, not just fish, but fish of a size you would hardly have expected. Where most hobbits would pull minnows of middling size from their hooks, Odo could cast into the river and take from it fish of incredible beauty, their rainbow scales glittering, creatures of a size that no hobbit had ever drawn before. So skilled was he that he dared clamber into a boat of his own making and fish far from the banks, which was very unusual for hobbits of his day, and indeed remained so. Yet it also proved unwise, for there came a day when a great behemoth of a fish seized his line and pulled his boat rapidly along with the current. Most hobbits would have dropped their rod and rowed to safety, but Odo had a reputation to uphold. He braced himself against the sides and held on to the rod for dear life. "I will make you mine," he proclaimed to the great fish as it pulled him along. "I will be the victor in this contest, or my name is not Odo Grubb, Master Fisherman." The battle lasted for days, and the mighty fish pulled Odo's boat far from the shore and into lands unknown to all hobbits. At last, consumed by hunger and weariness, Odo released his hold of the fishing rod, and it flew out of the boat and into the water. "I give up," he said to no one as his boat slowed from its rapid pursuit. He picked up the oars and prepared to begin the long journey homeward. Then something bumped in to the underside of his boat, and the oars broke from their locks and fell into the water. But his rapid journey southward continued. "What is happening?" he cried aloud, and peered over the side into the water below. The great fish had not left him, but remained, pushing the boat on its southward course. "Where are you taking me?" Odo demanded, but the fish did not respond. This continued for many days, until Odo was faint with hunger. He collapsed in the base of his boat, and once again wondered where the great fish would let him go. "Did you bring me here just to let me die?" he cried aloud, too weak to even shake his fist at the cruel skies. Then he heard a splash, and another. Small fish were leaping from the water and landing in the boat. What luck!" he gasped, and grabbed them with both hands. He ate them raw, which he would have found distasteful back home, but on this terrible day he was glad for the unexpected gift. His vigor renewed, Odo was now strong enough to keep watch from the front of his boat, and that is how he saw the great sea approaching and the river's end. The boat slowed, and the great fish halted its pushing. It lifted its great head from the water, and Odo saw that the creature was not alone. There were fish of every imaginable size and shape surrounding his boat. "What do you want?" he asked. As Odo surveyed the vast variety of the diverse species that surrounded him, he found that he recognized every type of fish. At one point or another in his esteemed career, he had caught at least one of each of these types, and in some cases many. "You hold me responsible?" he whispered. You came for me for revenge?" The fish stared at him with bulbous eyes, their gills working silently just beneath the surface of the water. But you fed me. Why keep me alive?" There was no response from the silent assembly, but suddenly they moved as one. Hundreds of fish pressed against sides and bottom of Odo's boat, and the silvery rainbow multitude forced the boat from the fresh water of the river into the salt of the great sea, dying as they went. And so Odo Grubb paid the price for his success. Give a thought to him on this night, floating on the great sea, far away, never to return. Okay, that one's a little creepy. Definitely nothing beats beats, I think that was, who was that who told that? That wasn't Esmeralda. That's Esmeralda. Can't remember her name right now. But we are going to continue. So Griffo's up next. And what do you have to say for yourself, Griffo? My story is a cautionary tale, but I urge you not to discount it, for it is also true. Very true. The events of this story took place not so long ago, shortly after new homesteads were made available in the Shire. A very old, and by most accounts, rather unpleasant hobbit, the widow Spinner, was enamored of one of the homes on Myrtle Court, and she greatly desired to purchase it. She was not the only interested buyer, of course, but she had the most money to spend, and she was able to outbid the chief rival, a young hobbit named Bob Newbuck. She purchased the most desirable home on Myrtle Court, and she lived there for several months, much to Bob's consternation. Well, Bob wasn't one to give up, even when losing a contest, and he made it a point to pass by Myrtle Court as often as possible, scowling in the direction of the widow Spinner's home at every opportunity. One night, as he passed by the lane, he heard a strange voice calling in the darkness. He looked more closely and saw the widow Spinner standing in the yard beside her burrow, wearing a long nightshirt and a sleeping cap. Crazy old bat, Bob thought to himself as he continued down the lane to his own comparably disappointing and cramped burrow. Thinking back on that curious night some time later, Bob decided he might have been the last person to see the widow Spinner before she disappeared. Indeed, no one else could tell the sheriff what had happened to her or where she had gone. Bob was as helpful as he could be, and he told them what little he knew, but it was not long before the widow Spinner was declared dead, and 6 Myrtle Court was once again available to purchase. Bob wasted no time and purchased the house, and it was everything he hoped it would be. He decorated it to his liking, and lived there happily for several months. He was lying in bed one night, sometime after midnight, when he heard a voice. "Help me," it called from somewhere outside Bob's cozy window. "What is it?" Bob wondered to himself, and he pulled the covers up to his chin. "Help me," the voice called again. Bob squeezed his eyes shut, but then decided that the morning was too far off, and there would be no escape the plaintive voice. He followed its call out of his bedroom, down the hall, and finally outside. The air was cold, and the night was dark, but he was able to hear the voice clearly enough to follow it to the side yard where the well was dug. Sure enough, the voice echoed from the dark hole in the ground. "Help me," it asked again. Bob leaned over the hole and scowled. "Spinner, if that's you down there," he began, but he wasn't able to finish the thought before something slammed into his back and he slipped on the wet grass. Bob tumbled down the well and everything went dark. When he awoke, he was lying half in and half out of the water, deep inside the well. A crevice in the wall opened into a chamber dug out of the dirt, and he was wedged painfully in that crack. He felt woozy, and it was hard for him to make his eyes focus. Gradually they did, and he saw the widow Spinner sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall of the dirt chamber, a teapot and several plates arranged around her. "Help me," the voice said once again, and Bob realized that it came not from the widow Spinner, but from somewhere much closer, right by his ear. "Help me set out the tea," it continued. "She will be so happy to have someone over for tea." Something pulled at his arm roughly, and Bob disappeared into the dirt chamber. He was never seen again. I heard that 6 Myrtle Court is available for purchase again, if you don't mind tea at midnight. Okay, that's kind of creepy too. So, Griffo and this young lady here probably have the 2 creepiest stories so far. So, Barrelac here would like to tell us a tale. Y'all know I love napping, and it has been the subject of some teasing throughout the years. But I tell you this, Mother told us this story when we were very young, and if some of you forget it, well, I never did. Once you have heard it again, you will be jealous of my afternoon naps and my early bedtimes, I don't doubt it. Many years ago, a hobbit named Hampson Broadbeam lived in the town of Overhill. He was a woodworker of much renown, and folks came from all throughout the shire to buy his crafted goods. You can still find oaken chests bearing his mark in the hobbit holes throughout the Four Farthings, though Hampson himself is only remembered in this tale. He was a victim of his own success. There were so many orders for so many customers that he had to stay awake late into the evening to finish each crafted good, stumbling into bed as the first beams of light began to shine through the trees onto Overhill. His work began to suffer, and he feared that his reputation would be tarnished unless something changed, and quickly. One day Hampson was drowsily walking through the Bindble woods to an area where he was accustomed to felling trees for his workbench. As he approached the location, he felt the hair on his toes stand up. Something was watching him from the tree canopy. "Hello, is anyone there?" he called out. "I live here," a thin, reedy voice replied. Hampson squinted up at the branches, but he could not see the speaker. "I don't see you," Hampson said. "Am I asleep? I must have fallen asleep somewhere on the trail, and now I am dreaming. I hope no animals find my body while I sleep." "You seem pretty awake to me," the mysterious voice answered. "At least you're not asleep. Perhaps you should be. Your limbs hang loosely, your eyelids droop, and I see exhaustion in every part of you." Hampson was impressed that the strange new acquaintance could read the situation so clearly, and he described the many demands of his time that prevented him from sleeping. "If only I didn't need to sleep," he exclaimed, "I need worry about nothing." At first the voice from the tree canopy did not respond. Then a small twig with a red berry fell aloft, landing in the dirt by Hampson's feet. "What's this?" he asked. "I do not need to sleep," the voice responded. "Eat those berries and you will not need to sleep either." Normally Hampson would not have trusted such a gift from a stranger, particularly from one so strange as this, but he so desperately wanted the berries to do as the voice promised that he did not give it a second thought. He ate them greedily, but felt no different. He asked how long it would take for him to notice their effect, but the voice did not respond. Angrily, Hampson went home. He didn't even care to collect the wood that he had brought himself into the forest in the first place. So disappointed and out of sorts was he. That night Hampson fashioned a set of chairs, requested by a wealthy patron, and the work was delicate enough that he found himself quite engaged and still awake by morning. In fact, his drowsiness had departed, and he worked all the rest of the day and into the following evening. "Can it be," he asked his empty burrow, "that those berries take away my need of sleep?" It seemed to be so, and Hampson had never been so happy. The following weeks were a delight for the woodworker, and he finished every order set before him. When there were no more orders to fill, he read his small collection of books, and felt he had become a much smarter and more cultured gentle hobbit. When there were no more books to read, he took long walks through the shire at night, and marveled at the nighttime beauty of the countryside. When that finally lost its luster, he returned to his home and lay awake in his bed. He had exhausted everything he wanted to do, and now he was bored. All he wanted to do was close his eyes and sleep, but try as he might, he would never sleep again. As bad as he had felt before, now he felt worse. Every day felt like an eternity, and every night felt like two. Hampson walked every inch of the Bindble woods, calling for the mysterious voice to return and give him different berries, but as far as I know, he never found it. He might be walking there still, just over there, seeking an end to his endless wakefulness. Okay, that's one of those tales where it's pretty much be careful what you wish for. All right, and our final tale comes from Angelica Boffin. Many, many years ago, long before a family tree had so much as sprouted, there was a small village on the banks of the Brandywine, not far from where Stock is located today. One of the prominent figures in this village was a fellow named Gerd Goodcliff. He had the respect of his neighbors, and was consulted about many of the matters that faced the town. It was widely held that when the time came for the mayor to step down, Gerd would easily be chosen to take his place. One day Gerd was walking among the reeds at the river's edge when he heard a small voice among the rushes. How curious, he thought to himself, and he squatted down in the mud to find the owner of the voice. Finding nothing, he prepared to stand once again, but before he could, a large black cat paddled out of the reeds. "Well, hello there," he greeted the cat and turned to go. "Hello yourself," it said to him. Gerd was most surprised, for this was the first time a cat had ever spoken to him. Once he recovered himself, he found the cat was not simply talkative, but quite friendly as well. It introduced itself as Green Eyes, and said it had come from faraway lands in search of a home. Gerd was happy to offer Green Eyes such a place at his own humble burrow, and Green Eyes contributed in his own way, keeping mice and other undesirables away from Gerd's pantry. In time, Green Eyes proved capable at finding much more than mice. He would stalk through the village, creeping into half-open windows, and pushing open unlatched doors. He learned many interesting rumors, and overheard much gossip about the hobbits of the town, and he recounted each salacious morsel to Gerd with delight. Gerd began to look upon his neighbors with distaste and distrust, and he found he could no longer stand to engage in conversation with them. He became cold and distant, and other hobbits avoided him when they saw him on the road, crossing to the other side rather than speak with him. When they returned to their homes, Green Eyes would follow behind, and listen while they called Gerd off-putting, odd, and unfriendly. The cat recounted these stories for Gerd with regret, but his tail twitched back and forth happily. "I don't need these liars as friends anyway," Gerd told him one day. "I have you, Green Eyes, and you're the only friend this hobbit needs." Green Eyes nodded, his tail twitching. Not long afterward, a day came when Gerd could not find Green Eyes anywhere. Despairing, and certain that one of his neighbors had done some harm to his friend, he ran screaming out into the center of town. Folks watched his raving progress through the village, and their whispers were no longer hushed or hidden. Madly Gerd ran down the banks of the river, and there at last he found his friend. Green Eyes stood among the reeds, and with his two front paws he pushed a small boat out in the river. He clambered onto it, and turned back to face Gerd as it floated out on the current. "Why, Green Eyes, why must you leave?" Gerd called out to him. Green Eyes did not respond, but only watched him silently until the current bore him away and out of sight. No one knows what happened to Gerd Goodcliff after that, but he never came back to town, and he never became mayor. But there are some who say that if the moon is high in the sky, like it is tonight, you might catch a glimpse of Green Eyes on his boat, floating away down the river, his tail twitching, twitching, twitching. Okay, so I do believe we have gone through all of the stories. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Now we're going to pick 2 of these. Camellia definitely gets a mention because that was pretty creepy. Holly told me this story herself, and she wouldn't joke about that. It's all true. And Camellia's story was the one about the hobbit farmer whose scarecrow wasn't scaring off the birds. Very creepy. And this one, this is the other one that I think deserves a good mention. This was the one about the widow spinner. Okay. Ooh, I gave myself the shivers. You did you? Well, nonsense. These stories are all rubbish. Not at all. Is it my turn? I have a good story to tell. Oh, it's Bingo's turn to tell a story. And we have one more. But did we save the best for last? The story I'm about to tell is older than each of the others we have heard tonight, for it dates from the earliest days of the Shire, and is recorded in very few places. I found it in a book that Medriel received from the Library of Great Smiles, but it seems to me there were few copies of that book ever made. Once I tell you this story, it will live on, and you should remember it. Even in the earliest days of the Shire, festivals were already important to our distant ancestors. Were there Boffins even then? I'd like to think so, although I have not seen a family tree that extends back that far. Certainly some branches of our family tree bear similar names to those earliest hobbits of the Shire, and I have seen accounts of Esmeraldas, Marigolds, Griffos, and Foscos. But I'm getting distracted. A young girl by the name of Minigilda desired to win a dancing competition, but her chief rival, one Peony, excelled at the art and bested her at every opportunity. Minigilda was obsessed with winning the great prize, and she became convinced that Peony owed her success to the violet shoes she always wore. Minigilda hatched a plan to steal the shoes. She surprised Peony on the banks of the Brandywine and demanded she hand over the shoes. Peony refused and said they were a spell on the shoes. They would work only at her command, and they would do Minigilda no good at all. Minigilda was not dissuaded. In fact, the revelation that the shoes were enchanted filled her with happiness. At last, an explanation for her continued failure to beat Peony at dancing. Peony removed the shoes and threw them at her rival. "Fine," she cried, "have them. I will tell my father what you've done, and you won't be allowed to dance at all." This was a mistake, but Peony did not understand the rage that seethed within Minigilda's heart. Minigilda charged at her with arms raised, and she pushed Peony into the river. She never surfaced. Minigilda put on her stolen shoes and returned to town. There were whispers, but no one had seen her encounter with Peony, and it was believed that Peony may have run away, seeking her fortune beyond the borders of the Shire. Minigilda did not care. Her every thought was bent on winning the next dance contest. A few weeks later, Minigilda wore her new shoes and danced on the stage before all the assembled hobbits. Everyone cheered and applauded, for they had never seen such dancing before, not even when Peony had participated. Minigilda was the clear winner. And yet, something was very wrong. Someone tried to present Minigilda with the winning ribbon, but she merely continued to dance. Everyone applauded again, but she showed no signs of stopping. "I think that's enough, dear," someone called out, but now there were tears streaming from Minigilda's face, and the assemblage came to understand that she wanted to stop, but could not. Folks rushed to the stage and sought to remove the violet shoes, but they wouldn't come off. Minigilda's feet flew left and right, here and there, but even when she fell into a stupor, the dance continued. At last it stopped, but Minigilda's dancing days were done. The shoes were packed into a box, and it was sealed away, hidden in a dusty corner of a forgotten burrow. Hobbits spoke for a time of Minigilda and the cursed shoes, but eventually the story passed into legend, and folks doubted if it had ever really happened, even if they feared to speak of it. And that's why hobbits never wear shoes. That's not true. That can't be true. How do you know? It's just rubbish. All these stories are nonsense. Well, it's interesting you should say that, Dino. Because I went and had a chat with Bombadil Foxtail at the Matham house. Bombard Foxtail. And he did some digging around, and he found the very same shoes from the story. And here they are. Can it be? What? There's no way those are the same shoes. Does anyone want to try them on? I'll do it. I'm not afraid. Esmeralda, are you sure? I'm not scared, Mother. They fit perfectly. See, nothing to worry about. All right, Esmeralda, you should probably take them off now. I cannot. I can't stop. Esmeralda, no! Medriel, help her. The shoes won't come off. No, no, Esmeralda, it's all true. It's all true. Did you see? What fun! What do you think, Medriel? It seems to me that Esmeralda should try acting at the Frostbuff Theater. That was a convincing performance. I'd say we certainly gave Dino a taste of the season, wouldn't you? Oh, it's all in good fun. He'll be fine. He just needed a good scare. We wouldn't have carried out the trick if Prince hadn't given her permission, and she thought it might do him some good, just as we all did. It's the season for scares, after all. And I guess our evening of storytelling is complete. Haha, that was great, Medriel. I think we finally managed to frighten the unfrightenable. The spirit of the scare is still alive and well in the Shire, despite rumors to the contrary. You had better go and check on him. We don't want him falling into any trouble on our account, after all. Dina just ran off to the northwest. He's probably laughing about it by now, although he'd never admit it. Alright, so we gotta go find Dinodus. And hey, look, there's a goblin wandering by. Which is almost as funny as some of the stories that we heard. Alright. Dinodus, where are you? Alright, where are you? Are you? Oh, there you are. You have found Dinodus. Hey, how you doing, Dinodus? That was horrible, Medriel, and very mean. I expect a full apology. You should not go around trying to scare people for no reason. You explained that Bingo believed his cousin might enjoy the Harvest Festival more if he let himself be scared from time to time, and Dina just flails his arms wildly. Bingo thinks nothing scares me. I have become a victim on my acting skills, Medriel, and gave too fine a performance. Do you remember when we explored the haunted burrow? I worked so hard to see through the spooky atmosphere and lay it bare as a sham, but deep down I was full of fear. Every bump, every sudden movement, every deep shadow seemed to promise some new form of terror. Foolish Medriel, I do not fear nothing. I fear everything. Oops. Now you know my secret shame, and I trust you will keep it to yourself. It's all begun some time ago, when I offered to walk Celandine Brandybuck back to her home, after a dinner party my mother hosted. Celandine was very happy to have the company, but as we began the walk, I saw that the hour was much later than I had thought. The night was dark, and the shadows were deep, and my blood ran cold at every creepy sound. I knew if I did not do something, Celandine would know me for a coward. Cry disaster. In order to make me mask my fear, I adopted a brazen attitude, and mocked every fear I felt. It was all an act which I have become all too practiced. Dina frowns. Still, Bingo is my cousin, and that was a mean trick for a family member to perform at any remove, and no matter the distance. Speaking of distance, I was on my way back to Greenfield when you caught up to me. I turned around because I heard something scary and dropped my pack and ran back this way. Do you think you can retrace my steps to the northwest and find my pack? I don't think I have the courage to go back and look for it. Okay. So now we need to go find his pack. We have bears and bears and more bears and where are we going? Bolstones. Oh, there's a backpack. I don't think that's the one we're looking for, though. Okay. I'll grab it. Not the one we're looking for, but I'll grab it anyway. Okay, where are we going? Oh, I think we cracked. That wasn't part of the plan. Alright, where are we going? You know, usually I have no trouble finding this. But today, it seems like I've actually managed to get lost looking for this one. Which kind of makes it fun. Unnatural blue fires blaze in the darkened wood. And we have a creepy looking specter here. The spectral vision stares past you into the dark space among the trees. When it speaks, the sound reverberates in your ears and sets your teeth on edge. There can be no reparation for the hurt that has been done. In 1 year, all will fear the parting of the wood. None will escape the curse of the eerie acres. Despair and repair to your holes, for none but one will laugh when all is done. The vision stops speaking, and the space between the trees falls silent. All is cold. So we gotta go find Dinodas and return his bag to him. Bingo has come here, and he apologized for the trick, and all is well now, and we don't need to discuss the thing I told you, Medriel, all right? Good. You gave Danodis his pack. After a moment's thought, you tell him that you saw something unusual nearby. Oh, what? What was it? Actually, perhaps you should tell Cousin Bingo. I don't think I need to hear about it. I don't believe in that sort of rubbish. No, indeed. I apologize to Danodus for our scary trick, but I think it did him some good. Now, what whirled you up into such confusion? You quietly tell Bingo about the spectral vision you saw in the wood, and he looks at you skeptically. Is this a joke, or a trick of your own? You really saw this thing? What fun! A mysterious apparition appeared in the wood. How delightful! I simply must see it for myself. Let's go. So we need to go back and find the spirit again. And you know this was the location, but the apparition is gone. There's nothing here. That's even more scary. I do not like this, Megio. I mean, it's all nonsense. There was nothing here to begin with, and it's very cruel of you to pretend otherwise. It's gone? I'm disappointed, but that just makes me even more curious about it. What is going on here, Medriel? What does Danodus think? Perhaps afterward you can circle around to that building on top of the hill and see some sign of the apparition. So we need to go up to that little bit of ruins and look around. And of course, if we were of a lower level, we'd be shooting bears all the way up, but we're not. We are quite the level to deal with it. You see nothing unusual on the approach to the ruined building. You stand atop the ruin but see no sign of the spectral apparition. So, looks like it's gone. We're just going to hop down there. You didn't see anything? I'm not surprised. Whatever was here, it clearly does not want to be seen again. I wonder why. My mind is full of questions, Medriel. This is truly an autumnal mystery. I need some time to think it over. I will meet you back at the party tree. The wood has become very spooky, and while Danodus may not fear anything, I have to confess that this place has given me the chills. I love it, but perhaps we should head back to Hobbiton all the same. So, now we need to go back to Hobbiton to talk to Bingo and see what he has to say next. And hopefully this didn't run too long, but I do believe that once we get back to Hobbiton, this is the absolute last of this. I believe we're actually done with this first part of his Harvest Festival or Harvest Math quest chain. I like Bingo. He's quite an interesting chap. Some people don't like him. Some people find him very annoying. I don't. I like him. He's fun. He gives us fun things to do. He's definitely given us some different stuff to do over the years. And we're on top of Bag End. So Hello, Bingo. We're back. I am very excited about this this autumn mystery. I have read many scary stories, and they always delight my imagination, but I have never been involved in one myself. Tell me once again what the ghostly fellow had to say. You recount the words of the spectral vision. There can be no reparations for the hurt that has been done. In 1 year, all will fear the parting of the wood. None will escape the curse of the eerie acres. Despair and repair to your holes, for none but one will laugh when all is done. Do I have that right? I have to admit, I do not know what any of that means, Medriel, but it sounds to me like we have a year to figure it out. I will do some thinking. It sounds to me as if next year's Harvest Festival might be something, though. I can't wait, but I guess I must. And with that, we finish part 1 of the quest and gain 24 tokens in the process. So, having done all that, next time we're going to start on part 2, which will take us into Westmead, so we can do some of that there too. But until then, bye for now.